Hi Gemini, welcome to your May 2017 General Tarot reading. It's Rena here. So I'm going to be doing a different spread. I did it for Taurus and I really felt comfortable doing it that way. Basically, I think for the most part, these types of readings are very similar in scope, regardless of how you configure the cards. But for some reason, I felt that I should do it like this month for the general readings. And before I begin, I just wanted to give you a heads up on a few astrological transits that may affect you. And that's always the caveat, because it could have something to do with your degree of sun or rising sign, whether or not these transits fall exactly in a particular house. So you're going to have your solar return for those of you born at the end of May, so happy birthday. And actually, you guys, the ones that are, if you're born around the 25th, you're actually going to have a new moon on your birthday. Well, you'd have to be born exactly on the 25th. But, so that would be very cool. I hope that that happens to me in the next few years. I'm going to have to check the ephemeris. But, so that will start your new solar cycle, and so be sure to have some new moon birthday wishes to, to write down during that time if you want to, attract things to you, and that's one way that people do it. And let's see, what else is happening in May? All month long, Venus is in Aries. Aries is at a friendly angle to Gemini. They're fire, you're air. It works out really well. It's so funny. I knew a man once who has since passed, but I remember when I first met him, he asked me what my sign was, and he was a Libra and I was a Sagittarius, and he said, air fans fire. In other words, it makes the fire bigger. And I always retained that, because that it showed the affinity between the two elements. And I feel that that's true. I feel that if you know any fire signs, that when you two get together, it's like you can really whip them up into a frenzy, and I mean that in a good sense. You have this natural, this ease of communication and dealing with them. So you may have Aries people in your life. That's always a possibility, but also this would apply to Leo, and of course Sagittarius, which is my sun sign, is your opposite sign. So you have that going on too. But getting back to Venus in Aries, that's going to be your 11th house of hopes and wishes. So having Venus there is really good, because the 11th house is considered the luckiest house. And Venus is a planet that tends to bring money in addition to love. And it can give you grace, charm, if those are synonymous. And that can make you appealing, especially to groups, because that's what the 11th house also deals with. Groups, associations with clubs and friendships. So you could find a lover in your social circle, or if you belong to any groups, things like that. So we've got that going on, and there's going to be a new moon in the sign of, well, I already told you it's your sign, on the 25th. So a new moon in your sign, that's a new beginning, your new solar cycle. Before that, mid-month, there's going to be a full moon, and this is going to be in Scorpio. And Scorpio happens to be your 6th house of health. So a full moon can kind of bring awareness to any health things that have been going on. Maybe you were kind of like, what is this? Certain symptoms that you've been having, it can be a very good time to do a detox. Of course, you have to really research that for your own health, because I personally, sometimes they say detox and you have no idea what's in if you're buying something that's pre-made. So it's always good to do a lot of research before you take anything, or even if it's something that you concoct yourself, it's always good to really be aware of how it might affect you, because certain herbs and things like that, or even natural juices, depending on your particular condition, you know, mileage may vary. But that the full moon is a time when people traditionally have detoxed, and sometimes they do fasting or juicing. There's like a moon diet online that you can check out. Just Google that. And they talk about the phases of the moon and how, you know, and they even give you dates that are really good for that. Sometimes it's not actually on the full moon date, but between the full moon and the new moon, they'll have certain days that are good for that. And what else? So that could be something along those lines for health purification. Also, you know, letting go of bad dietary habits. The full moon is a time for letting go. It can also be something to do with the workplace. The 6th house is the workplace. So you may decide to, maybe you're moving on from a certain location. It may not be that you're moving on with a company. Maybe you're just like going to a different department or a different branch. But you could be, some people could be leaving their place of employment. Maybe a coworker is leaving. There's the 6th house is kind of weird that way, because it's like health, you know, how does health relate to your daily routine and your office? Well, maybe in some ways it does. It's not totally random, I guess. The 6th house can be about pets. So, you know, some kind of psychic connection with your pets, learning something about them. Of course, there could be endings. Awareness, though, too. And sometimes fruition, sometimes fertility. So I'm going to leave that there because I want to get to the reading. There are so many things you could talk about with astrology. Wow. That's a nice beginning. Okay, now I got to remember how to do this new reading. Okay. Okay, so based on how I've got this position, it may not be, I'll hold up if I can't see everything. Of course, I could probably just move over the cards, because then I don't have to hold anything up. That might be the best thing of all. There we go, I think. That'll cover it a little bit better. Okay, so the overall theme is the Star card. So that's why I kind of oohed and ahed, because I really love this card. I think a lot of people do. This is a card associated with Aquarius, so there could be a focal point in the month of May for you with somebody who is under that sign. Of course, again, this is a general reading, so it's not necessarily a love situation. This could be a friend. Actually, too, the sign of Aquarius rules the 11th house of friendships and groups that I was just talking about. So perhaps, and this is about your hopes, you know, and your dreams and things like that. That may be that something comes true, one of your dreams comes true. And that is kind of like something that you are celebrating. because you do have some wonderful cards. This could be a career situation. When I say the Star card, however, I often think of the person coming through the fire and having maybe some major challenges that have made them able to kind of appreciate the turn of luck, if you will. And I don't like to talk about luck. I like to make it that you are taking action and making things happen, but whatever you want to call it, maybe something has happened that kind of restores your faith, and you may have been doubting yourself and doubting life because of things in the past. But you have a good past too. You have to remember, I'm recording this on April 11th, which is the date of the full moon in Libra. So you could very well be watching this close to May or even in May, for all I know. And so when I talk about the cards in the top row, that could be things that haven't come yet. If you're watching, I'm sorry, if you're watching it early, I should say, the top row might be things that have not occurred yet. So this is why it's very important to look at the context, because what we have here, I'm going to just go down the line. These can be either past situations that have occurred that have influenced the current state, or they could be players in the game, players in the situation. For instance, whatever association is made with that card. I just mentioned, for the current situation, I mentioned Aquarius with the Star card. So all of these cards have connections too, and these could be people that are contributing to your life in some way. But it could be situations, and I think that you have already gotten recognition for something, or if you're watching this early on, you will be getting recognition for something before May comes around, maybe. Or even, who knows, maybe in the early part of May. We don't want to get too technical or too specific. Let's just look at it, in terms of past, present, future, but it could be all within the month of May. So some recognition, something where your talents are recognized. And this, because it's wands, it does seem to be career related. This is typically where we get our kudos, is related to whatever it is that we do professionally. And sure enough, in astrology, the 10th house is at the top of the chart, because it's meant to signify the front and center nature of what the 10th house represents, what your career is all about. It's you showing off your talents to the world. And it's funny because the 6th house, I always was like, okay, well, what's the difference? The 6th house is about your work. What's the difference? Well, I call that the grunt work. That's the actual daily grind. And the things that we do for the work, whether it's hard, if there's a Saturn is transiting that house, or Mars creating a lot of flurry of activity. But the 10th house is us being on our high horse, which I think that card represents. The Six of Wands, and taking a victory lap. I'm just it doesn't have to be any specific order. The Three of Wands, maybe you have been meaning to expand whatever it is you're doing. This is particularly true for people who have their own businesses. And thinking again about astrology, you have Jupiter transiting through the 5th house until October, okay? October 11th. And so for some Geminis, this has led you to start business. Now you may have already had a business. Not everybody starts things at that time, but maybe it has expanded. This is a card of expansion. You have something, you want to bring it globally. And so this is a card of travel. In general, this can be talking about expanding your horizons. And if you have a love relationship, maybe you're dealing with somebody overseas. The Six of Wands can talk about somebody who is in, a fire sign. Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Or they, if it's not their sun sign, they have that fiery nature, so they probably have it somewhere else in their chart. And this is another fire sign energy. Enthusiasm, wanting to grow, wanting to go beyond your, immediate area. And then we have the Page of Cups. And this is a card that relates to a certain artistic nature. The Three of Wands can as well. So if you are an artist, perhaps you're having some kind of victory or breakthrough with your artistic career. And with the Star card, you may have thought that it wasn't ever going to happen, and it did. This can relate to Pisces, this card. So this could be a person that you're involved with. This can also relate to a child, news about a child. I suppose you could even say, because I did get the Empress, I wouldn't be surprised if this is something related to pregnancy. I know the Ace of Cups is, but I think the Page of Cups could be news of a pregnancy. Maybe you're pregnant. I did get that for Taurus as well. That could be, obviously, it's not going to be for everyone, but for those people, that would have been a dream come true. Maybe you thought you could never get pregnant, and you are able to. But this is a card also, this can be about gullibility, about being fooled by somebody, and it causes you to be deluded in your, maybe even in your behaviors. But because you have such great cards, I don't see that with this particular reading. So I'm going to go with those other interpretations. And so part of the current situation right now, we have the Magician. And so it's really a card of self-empowerment. And so anything that's successful for you, it's something that inspires you to do even more and to be even more self-reliant. And perhaps, you know what I was thinking too, for some of you, it may be that you're having this success at your work, but you decide to go it alone. And that is also supported by the full moon in your 6th house coming on May 10th in Scorpio. It can be you saying, you know what, I don't have to, and having that confidence to do it. And so it could be something that you've always wanted to do, and finally there's this ability to make it happen. But this is a card, as I say, of being self-empowered. And I don't even think, I love this card so much, but I don't see it as a card similar to like the Nine of Pentacles, where it's like I am very affluent, or the Queen of Pentacles. I can, support myself and all this stuff. It's more of a mindset than talking about the actual money, because this can relate to anything in your life. It could relate to a relationship. Maybe you have been in other relationships where you have felt very claustrophobic, which isn't hard for a Gemini person to feel, and maybe even in some cases dependent. And now you feel very much like you're your own person in that situation. And again, it could be with a fire sign individual. Likewise, we have the Empress, and this is what I was talking about. This is the Earth Mother energy associated with Libra and Taurus. But, Taurus is an Earth sign, so I tend to always think of Taurus. But this is also a card of abundance as well as creativity. So it's going with that theme of creativity. birthing a baby of a creative project, and possibly taking it global, taking it beyond your four walls or your immediate area. You know, it's funny that polarity between Gemini and Sagittarius, because Gemini rules the third house of the local area. And so you may be one of those people that likes to get involved in your local stuff and just walk around and feel connected to that environment. And your opposite sign, Sagittarius, rules foreign travel. So it's like kind of the macro version of traveling or of interacting with your environment. And it's a more of an expansive environment. So that's possibly something that's coming up for you. But this is about having that sense of fullness, abundance. And, you know, with the Six of Wands, that could be financial, big time. It could be getting pregnant. Again, maybe not with a baby, with an idea that is going to be very expansive. It's going to make you be able to, it's going to open up your world, basically, Gemini. And that is so enticing, I think, to a lot of you, is to have that, you know, the sky's the limit. And you're the air in that sky. What is coming in? The Four of Swords, you resting. For most of the month, the sun is going to be in your 12th house. So this is a time, you know, the cobwebs, clearing them out. The sun, they say sunlight is the best disinfectant. So shining a light on those things that maybe you've kind of swept under the rug. The 12th house can be secrets or just anxieties, things that you've kind of sublimated, and maybe they'll come out. I mean, in a good way, that you can kind of, by resting and reflecting, you can see what needs to change in your life and also what direction you're going in. Because actually, we get another 3. So it seems to me that there's a lot of creative ideas happening. Now, again, if you're pregnant, this is like, you know, baby makes 3, right? And this is why they talk about the number 3 with creativity, because it's like, I don't remember what one of my books said, but I think it's like the man, you know, the human being and the spirit merge, and they create this project or this thing that's its own separate entity. It's a known separate entity, but it's also a product of the two. So if you're somebody who is building a business or building maybe you're working on a novel, working on a painting or something like that, this is showing that you're really hard at work and you're doing, but it's like a work in progress, and it's going to pay off. The number 3, you have a solid start, and you just have to keep going. And it can also talk of teamwork. So if you're on a job, maybe you're going to have, I'm talking about like on some kind of, well, not assignment, but I guess like a project. You may be working with other people to get this finished. And guess what happens? The victory. So you have 2 cards of victory, one from the major and one from the minor arcana, Gemini. This is a very good spread. And this is a card connected to Cancer. So maybe they're talking about timelines even. Maybe your solar return, your new moon, following that on the 25th of May, and then there's a new moon in Cancer, and I believe it's the 23rd of June. So that's like a month later. So that might be when things culminate, who knows. But definitely that can be a time, actually at the time of that new moon at the end of June, that will be in your second house of earned income. So maybe you're working on something right now that leads to that income stream. But it's a card of victory. You see him holding the reins of the horse. And that's, I think, that's symbolic of your mind, of really keeping the focus and not allowing yourself to get distracted. And in doing that, you're able to steer yourself in the right direction. Being an air sign, being a mutable air sign, Gemini can definitely get ADD on steroids in, in a very short period of time, because you just have many interests, you are very changeable, and so it's hard sometimes for you to focus and to really specialize. Sometimes you're so versatile that it works against you because you're kind of a dabbler, a little bit here, a little bit there. And this is the Chariot card is about focus, focus, focus. And that will win you the day. So I hope you enjoyed this, Gemini. If you'd like a private reading, please click on the link below. Otherwise, have a fabulous May. Bye.